false appearance and the genuine reality of beauty is immediately revealed to people. So they're terrified of it, but they're also equally terrified of beauty. So let me tell you a story about this, if you don't mind. I bought some Russian Impressionist paintings for my father, and I liked them a lot. This particular artist, the Russian Impressionist style is like the French Impressionist style, except it's a lot rougher. The brush strokes are thicker, and so it's lower resolution, but it's equally beautiful in terms of palette. And I have a variety of paintings. If you get some distance from them, they just snap into representation. So lovely. And so I sent my dad like 8 of these paintings. And my mom took one look at them and she said, "Those are not coming out of the basement." And my mom is a conservative person. So she's not high in openness. She's not that interested in ideas. And and her aesthetic sense isn't sophisticated. Now, my mother has a lot of lovely attributes, and my dad and her differ in that. And so he loved these paintings, and then he made these frames for them. And then he brought one up, and my mom tolerated that. And then he brought another one up, and then she tolerated that. And then like all 8 of them eventually made it upstairs. And then a few years later, I was there, and she told me how much she loved the paintings. But they really set her off. And I think it was partly because, well, if you're comfortable in your canonical perceptions of objects in some sense, and then the Impressionists come along and say, you could look at that whole landscape as if it was nothing but the interplay of color. And we forget how radical that is. I mean, those paintings caused riots in Paris when they were first showed, Impressionist paintings. And that's what my mother was reacting to. It's like, oh my God, there's a whole different way of looking at the world. I don't want to see that. And it's an invitation to that which is beyond the triviality of your perceptions, let's say, but it's to think that there's nothing about that that's worth being frightened of or challenging. You don't understand conservatives if you don't see that. So,
but in terms of beauty, one of the things that especially now, one of the problems or the way that beauty can kind of overwhelm us is that we feel as if we give ourselves, we're afraid of the suspicion, the hermeneutics of suspicion. We're afraid that if we see reality discloses itself to us and we can see the connection between that which is appearing to me and something behind it, then I'm afraid that if I make that leap, then I'll be betrayed, or that it will
that it won't turn out to be real,
and sometimes it's not. Like it is possible to be tricked by appearances.
Mm-hmm. And this gets you to Hans, Saving Beauty. His critique of what you see going on right now is he argues, if you read ancient texts, if you read Plotinus, one of the features they'll say about beauty is it's striking and disturbing and disrupting, right? And I want to come back to that about the transformative aspect of truth, but right, the transformative theory of truth. And Han talks about what we've done, right? And he talks about it in other books too, is we try to reduce the beautiful to the smooth, which is the ease at which we can consume something.
Yeah, like the smooth outer cover of a car.
Exactly.
Right, 1 pixel resolution.
Yes. And because what that does is it gives you, and I'll use this word deliberately, the veneer of beauty, but while protecting you from the hermeneutics of suspicion.
Smart. Yeah.
Right? You see that? So what we do is, and then he says, and pornography is the primary example of that, because what you do is you remove all threat, all mystery, all otherness from the person. So there's no way they can strike you or disturb you. There's no way
reject you.
Right. Yes, exactly. And so pornography is an example of the smooth completely overtaking the beautiful and being misunderstood as the beautiful. But if you gentlemen are in agreement with that, what that means, that's my answer to why the primacy of beauty. Because if you do not get that ability to, and I want to use this word in two senses.
Sorry, please go ahead, then I'll ask.
Yeah, I want to say through the way I'm saying, like through my glasses, beyond and by means of, if we can't properly get a moment where we can see through appearance into reality, we are locked into solipsism and skepticism. You need a primary, and if you do it rather than it is called to you, then you are trapped, right? You need something that calls you from beyond appearances so that you can properly align appearances to reality and you realize. That's why the primacy of
So
beauty.
is that the ontological calling you out of epistemology?
I would argue that that's Plato's argument for how the
Okay.
beauty. How
Okay, so
beauty
when you
works.
say, okay, so I've thought a lot about the relationship between love and truth, and I think love is primary, and the truth is the handmaiden of love in some sense. But so there's a primacy there. I would say the primacy of love, but you're making an argument for the primacy of beauty, and so are they contradictory arguments?
No, not at all. Because Plato's view of love, and you have to be careful because Plato is taking the Greek notion of eros and he's trying to bend it. And I think he's trying to bend it towards what the Christians are going to eventually talk about in agape.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
so take that as a caveat on what I'm saying. But nevertheless, what's going on, right, is Plato says, no. What love is that you are called to beauty. And let me just try and show you. Give me a sec because there's a connection.
Yeah.
Okay, so this will sound like, where's he out of left field? But like truth, rationality, most of the cognitive biases, in fact, there's a growing argument that a lot of the cognitive biases, confirmation bias, blah, 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 a lot of them are actually aspects of the my side bias, egocentrism. I won't make that argument here. I think it's a good argument. But let's say, even if it's only partially true, this is an important point. And Spinoza got this, right? This orientation, self-relevance, how things are relevant to me, right? That sort of fundamental egocentrism, a fundamental way in which you're prioritizing your perception on the world, right? You can't reason your way out of that. Spinoza, the most logical of the philosophers, says, no, the only thing that will invert the arrow of relevance is love. This is Murdoch's point. Love is when you recognize something other than yourself as real.
Right.
Okay, so let me ask you about that, because I've been thinking about the idea of being selfish.
Yes.
Well, psychopaths are selfish, but they also betray themselves.
Yes.
Because psychopaths don't learn from experience, and
Yes.
they doom their future selves.
Yes.
And so I kind of wonder if the love that lifts you out of this self-orientation, what it does in some sense is that it's the way you see the world. If you see beyond this narrow selfishness, because I don't really think there's any difference technically in me taking care of the multitude of future selves that I will become and me treating you properly.
I
think
totally
it's
agree.
Okay,
I think
fine.
your relationship to your future self is ultimately an agapic relationship. And I think that's the only way you can deal with a lot of the
Fine.
empirical research.
Okay.
So
you do.
Yeah, yes. Yeah. And that's
Why
what-
the empirical research?
Because
then?
I think the empirical research shows that, I mentioned it in the Cambridge talk that I sent you the link to, right? What if you do this? This is one instance among many experiments. You go into